Hey guys, so a lot of you wanted me to talk about this for obvious reasons. Those who don't know, Kat Von D recently posted on Instagram in the last few days that she is not going to vaccinate her baby. She is pregnant, just got married. The photos are pretty awesome, actually. Her dress is incredible. She's got these crazy horn things. I don't know, it's cool. Point is, so she announced that she is not going to vaccinate her kid, and so a lot of people have been pretty upset by that. I tweeted about it saying, I don't know, I'm someone who was anti-vax and am no longer, but it doesn't mean that I have any sort of step-by-step guide to loving vaccines, just like I don't have a step-by-step guide to, convince someone to go vegan or any other sort of controversial position or any sort of lifestyle change. There is no step-by-step guide. I think there are certain rules that we can follow that generally are a good idea, and certain ways of speaking that we should stay away from, just based on studies that have been done, not only specifically on veganism or specifically on vaccines and vaccine education and anti-vaxxers, but just in terms of human psychology. I think there are some basic rules that we should follow if we are trying to convince someone basically of anything. There's that side of it. And then there's also what I also tweeted that I'm not buying her stuff. I mean, look, it's easier for me to say that because I'm not in the market for Kat Von D makeup. I'm not in the market for makeup at all. I have a couple of her things, which I really like. I have her little metal mini palette or something. I know a lot of people complained about that because it's just a few shades or whatever, but it's really good quality, and the shades are all shades that I use. I really, really love that palette. Her liquid lipstick is really good, although honestly I prefer the Wet n Wild. Also the ColourPop liquid lipstick is awesome. So yeah, it's easy for me to be like, oh yeah, I'm gonna boycott. I'm making a difference. I'm taking a stand, but I'm not buying makeup right now anyway. So it's pretty easy for me to say, yeah, I'm not going to buy Kat Von D. But if I were planning on it, I think I would refrain and go with another brand. And I'm not saying that that's something that anyone has to do or that it's even something that people should do. I don't think it's making any sort of positive difference doing that, if I'm being quite frank. I don't think that's going to convince her to no longer refrain from vaccinating her kid. But just on a personal level, it feels right to me to not buy her stuff, because there is stuff. There's the Garden of Life vitamins that I think they launched not too long ago, and I remember looking at them and then seeing that they're tied to Alicia Silverstone, who is also anti-vax, and lots of other crazy stuff. It's no, I don't want to support that. There's also David Wolfe and his blender that apparently is pretty good, but no way in hell am I going to support that guy. So yeah, that's just my personal position on that. I also want to say, a lot of the comments I've seen, not only directed at Kat Von D, but just in general, comments from people who are pro-vaccines, directing kind of comments or arguments or whatever at people who are anti-vaccine, it often revolves around selfishness and saying that, Kat Von D, you are so selfish for not vaccinating your child. Don't you understand that hurts other children? Don't you understand herd immunity? And I really don't think this is a good way to approach it, because I don't think there are many anti-vaxxers who are saying, yeah, I'm selfish and I don't care about other kids. I mean, I highly suspect that's not the case. When we're talking about Kat Von D, you're talking about someone who is vegan, who really cares about other beings. I seriously doubt she would say, yeah, I don't care about your children. I hope they get polio or whatever. Of course she's not going to say that. So I think starting the conversation saying, oh, you're selfish, this is what you believe, without even really knowing. I mean, I honestly don't know why Kat Von D is anti-vax. I don't know what her beliefs are, but I have a feeling that she would probably say, no, I'm not selfish. I just don't believe in herd immunity. I don't believe that vaccinating my child is good for my child. I don't believe that it's good for other children. I don't believe anyone should be vaccinated. Yes, there are some anti-vaxxers who believe in survival of the fittest and whatever else. Some have actually made those types of comments, and it's disgusting, but that's not the majority. Most anti-vaxxers just have read wrong information from websites, from doctors in some cases, which is so aggravating, or they've just convinced themselves that no, herd immunity is not a thing, and that the vaccines themselves are actually what's causing the disease. And I think this is really important, not just when we're talking about vaccines, but when we're talking about anything, because ultimately you're just strawmanning the person. And I know it's easy to do. I know it feels good because this is such an important issue. You know, my first reaction to hearing she's anti-vax, it's like, number one, of course, because there's so many vegans who are, and it's really frustrating, but also it was like, ugh, it is so important for people to vaccinate their kids. And if we aren't careful, this could become a serious public health issue. It already is a serious public health issue in certain states. There's some evidence that maybe that this anti-vaccine hysteria is on the decline in the country overall, but in certain states, it's really bad. So yeah, I understand why people are frustrated, but again, I think we really need to be careful because we run the risk of pushing people deeper into their echo chambers when we come at them with, this is what you believe, this is your position, and they're saying no, and they're being honest, it's not their position. Again, I don't believe for a second that Kat Von D is just saying, yeah, fuck all the other babies, I don't care. Of course that's not her position. So all you're doing is pushing her deeper into her echo chamber of granola vegans who don't vaccinate and want water births and all that shit. Is that the goal? And I'm speaking to myself here. I'm not just like chastising everyone else, because I have a tendency to do that too when talking about vaccines and when talking about genetic modification and when talking about raw veganism. I know I have a tendency to become very smug and it's hard not to, because it's so easy to get into the frame of mind of, oh, they're just ignoring the science, which again, I think if you say that to someone like Kat Von D, she'll say no. She'll say, I'm not ignoring the science. I'm looking at all of the science. I'm looking at all of the evidence and coming to a rational conclusion. No one, maybe go off on a little tangent here, but I love the like facts don't care about your feelings crowd, logic over feelings and all that kind of shit, because who doesn't believe that they're the facts over feelings crowd? Like every single side thinks that they have facts on their side, right? I mean, it's such a stupid thing to rally behind, I think, because everyone, whether you're on the left or the right politically, whether you're pro-vaccine or anti-vaccine, whatever, every side thinks that we have the science, we have the evidence, the other side is ignoring the evidence and is just listening to their echo chamber, whatever. And of course, the people who scream that the loudest, the facts over feelings, are always the worst. They always use the worst sources. You know who I'm talking about. I don't think I need to dive too deeply into this, but point is, coming at them like, oh, well, you just read a little blurb on the internet and now you're anti-vax. That may be true. I'm not saying that doesn't happen, but you don't know that that's true. And there's a good chance that these people have actually researched a lot and they know a lot. It's just they don't understand how to research, and they've researched the wrong things, right? They've relied on like Mercola. They've relied on, what is it? Health Ranger? Is he still even around? But to them, that is research, and that is learning the truth, capital T, right? So again, coming at them with like, you haven't done your research, to them, that's completely wrong. So how do we fix this? Honestly, I don't know. I think trying to be a good listener, number one, and again, this isn't just vaccine, this is literally with any topic. I think really going into it, listening to what they have to say, even if it's someone that you're not going to learn anything from. And I mean, I think that's rare. Most times we can learn something from another person, but when it's something that's this wrong, anti-vaccine, okay, fine. You know that they're going to say stuff that you roll your eyes at, but just try to listen and to respond to them honestly. And there's probably going to be a lot of like moving the goalposts, but I think too often we get obsessed with winning an argument, with having the snarkiest response, with getting likes from other people who already agree with us. And I know that feels good. Like, I get it. Again, I'm speaking to myself here, but I don't think it's very productive. So something I shared a while ago, I don't remember what video it was in, sorry. I thought all anti-vaxxers were idiots, then I married one. It's not that anti-vaxxers are stupid or that they're corrupt. It's that they're afraid. This is the beating heart of any real discussion about anti-vaxxers. It's impossible to understand their position without considering the amount of fear that goes into the anti-vaccine narrative and considering how people construct and deal with that fear. For people who don't share their fear, it's very easy and convenient to demand that anti-vaxxers just suck it up and take the shot. I wish they would too, but we'll never get there by bullying them, by insulting and demeaning them, and refusing to take the fact of their fear seriously, even if there isn't much that's serious in its content. I think that's 100% true. I think most people, most parents who are anti-vax, they love their children and they are just so afraid. They've read certain things, They think they've done the appropriate research. They think it's correct. And they're just so deeply afraid of doing something, of harming their children via an action, right? Via taking them to the doctor and getting them a shot. Because yeah, how horrible, right? To inflict pain, suffering, even death on your child. That is what they're ultimately afraid of. And of course, we know they're wrong. So it feels like you just go, well, you're an idiot. Stop being afraid of that. That's like, what are you, 5 years old? Like, are you still afraid of the dark too? Which I am, by the way. I think a lot of us still are. And I'm afraid of spiders and like all sorts of bugs that can't possibly harm me. But yeah, I mean, look, telling me to just shut up and stop being a baby about being afraid of the dark hasn't worked. I've been told that before. Hasn't worked. I'm still afraid of the dark. I'm still afraid of spiders. And so Kat Von D and others, doesn't matter how mean you are to them. It doesn't matter how much you tell them how stupid their fear is, they're still afraid. And that fear manifests itself in not vaccinating their kids. Despite initially avoiding the subject, I decided after we were married that I should convince my wife to vaccinate her daughter. Vaccines are good after all. Vaccines are safe. Measles outbreaks had been on the news. What better time to raise the subject? But when I did, I realized that from her perspective, all of my confrontational reasoning sounded like me asking to point a gun at her daughter and have her trust that it was full of blanks. Looking into her eyes, I realized her trust in me was threatened. She asked why I would do that to a child. All of my insistence that vaccines are safe didn't matter. Go tell arachnophobic parents that you must put spiders on their child because society depends on it, and see how that goes. The benefits of getting the shot expressed in the abstract simply could not overpower the immediate disarming fear. Anyway, there's a lot more to this article, including his point number 5, changing someone's mind doesn't just take love, it takes empathy, and it does end positively too. And then last week, her daughter asked if she would be getting shots this year. Not with your classmates, my wife said, but yes, it's time. We'll schedule an appointment with our new family doctor. So yeah, it's a good article. Go read it. As far as Kat Von D's actual position, again, I don't know. She has this Instagram post where she announces that she's not going to vaccinate, but she doesn't go into any sort of reasons why. She just says that I already know what it's like to make life choices that are not the same as the majority, so your negative comments are not going to influence my choices. Actual research and educating myself will, which I am diligently doing. So again, in her mind, she's doing the research and she's doing the best thing for her child. It's really hard to dispute that because the facts are out there. Like, there are so many great articles that go through all of the main talking points that she probably agrees with, and point out like why they're wrong. But obviously this still isn't convincing to people like Kat. It's frustrating. And then of course she says, if you don't dig a certain something about what I post, I kindly ask that you press the unfollow button and move the fuck on. I really hate the position of like, if you don't like what I said, then unsubscribe. I think that's something we should be trying to move away from. I got a really good comment from someone on a recent video saying that they often disagree, but they liked this one, video that I made or whatever. And I think that's great. It's hard. It is so hard for me. I follow a lot of political sort of accounts on Twitter, and man, sometimes someone will say something that I really disagree with, and it's almost instinctual to just unfollow. It's really hard to go like, no, wait, what am I doing? Like, it's good to have different views. I'm not saying you have to listen to every troll or something, and I'm not saying that blocking is wrong. I think blocking and muting can be very, very useful, but I think, telling people to unfollow you because they disagree with you on one thing. I mean, from her point of view, doesn't she want to convince other people if she really thinks that vaccines are wrong? Isn't she trying to do the same thing that we're doing, that people who are pro-vaccines? Like, do you want to just push them farther into us farther into our echo chambers? I don't know. It's weird. I guess it's not weird. She really just wants to be left alone, which, why she made a post about it in the first place? Like, why would you even let people know that you're not vaccinating? Maybe just don't say anything. I don't know. That's the weirdest thing about this to me. Maybe there's another place where it was leaked or she accidentally announced it or something, and then she felt like she had to explain more. But to me, this seems like the first time anyone's ever hearing about it. So I don't know. If you don't want people to talk about it or give you advice, then just don't talk about it. Just don't tell anyone, and then we won't know, and then we won't give you advice. So before any one of you feel inspired to tell me how to do this, I would appreciate you keeping your unsolicited criticism to yourself. She says unsolicited, I think at least once or a couple other times in this post, not giving unsolicited advice. And it's like, yeah, there are a lot of times where it's not really warranted. And I know it's touchy with raising kids, but again, just like if you're pro-vaccine, you need to understand the points of it, the other side. If you're anti-vaccine like she is and you want to convince other people, don't you also need to understand where we're coming from? I'm trying to understand that she's fearful, but we're also fearful. I'm fearful that you are contributing to the decline of public health and potentially injuring other kids. It's not like I'm just criticizing, I don't know, the way you cook vegetables for your kid or the way you dress your kid or something ridiculous like that, where it would be no place of mine to say something. We're talking about something that is harmful. It's like if I see some parent beating their kid outside, I'm just not supposed to say anything because it's unsolicited advice? That's the way we see it. When we hear that you're not vaccinating your kids, it's like you're beating them. Except it's not just them. It's like you're beating them and a bunch of other kids as well. I guess that's it. I know this video is kind of all over the place. I don't have notes or anything because, well, you notice there's a new thing going on. We're kind of a little bit busy right now, but wanted to comment on this because I knew you guys were wanting it. Hope you guys enjoyed it. I would love to know your thoughts on this, and if you have any more articles or studies or anything on this sort of topic that might be useful for people who are interested in engaging with anti-vaxxers. And I think that's a good way to think of it. Instead of coming at it from a position of, I'm going to change you, I'm going to change your mind, I'm going to convince you I'm right, try to come at it from I want to engage with you, I want to talk with you, I want to discuss this with you, which is hard. I'm not good at it. There's a reason I try not to have one-on-one conversations with people because I'm bad at it. I get dismissive very easily. I mean, even the way I'm talking now, I just tend to speak kind of like I'm a bitch and I'm a know-it-all and I'm smug. I can't help it. I'm sorry. That's just how I talk. I'm sorry. So I try not to have conversations with people about stuff like this because I'm not good at it. Anyway, thanks again, guys. Comments and questions, subscribe. That's awesome. Support the channel, patreon.com/unnaturalvegan, and I'll have a new video very soon. Because I knew you guys were wanting it, and that seems so lazy. You guys want it, but I don't really have time or energy to make this a good video, so I'll just slap up whatever shit I can come up with. Enjoy! Trying to convince myself that's not what I'm doing. Well, I'll edit the video and see what I can salvage, and I don't know, half the time I think that this is me justifying it, by the way, so I can still have a video to put up, but half the time I put up a video that I'm not super happy about, you guys are like, this is great, more of this. Not even half the time, probably 90% of the time. So